started. I think I have about 45 minutes or so. I want to say thank you to Pete for hosting, for inviting me. And I want to say how refreshing it is. So I travel around the world quite a bit as an academic, somebody in the crypto space, go to a lot of conferences, work with many governments, and how refreshing is it to hear the Minister of Commerce in any given jurisdiction come up here and say the things he said, talk about innovation. So many of you will know in the United States, so I'm a citizen of the United States and Europe, and in the United States, the nightmare that we're going through with ETF registration, the ongoing debate about what's possible, what's not possible. Hester Pierce, SEC Commissioner, about half a year ago, said, quote, the technological evolution cannot be hindered by the lacking, quote, imagination of the regulators. So that was pivotal in my view. Half a year ago, everybody thought, this is it. They are going to move in this space, and we're still waiting. There's no ETFs. There's no movement in this space, and I'm passionate about this space, and so for me this is extremely refreshing to hear a minister say the things that he said. So for our little conversation here, does this work? So we'll do, I want to walk you through just briefly the 45-minute outline if you want. So we'll talk a little bit about what is happening in money. How is money evolving, and how can the crypto space contribute to this evolution? And then from there, I will speak a little bit about my own perspectives on this. So I represent Samara and the Samara Research Institute. We are exclusively dedicated to finding new solutions in the crypto space, solutions that many of you will know are very much needed. And so my views here will reflect largely on our perspectives and the research that comes out of Samara Labs and Samara Research Institute. So from Evolution of Money then, I'll talk a little bit about crypto economics as a new discipline. I'll walk you through a basic comparison between crypto economics and the traditional economic perspectives on this, including monetary policy, fiscal policy, and so forth. And then lastly, I'll end with token models. Many of you will know that the top 100 crypto startups in the United States around the world by market cap have devised certain perspectives, certain new token models. And so I just published a month ago a study on these token models, and I'll give you a quick overview. I believe we have 5 minutes at the end for questions or so. Okay. So rethink money. So why do we have to rethink money? So if we go back in history and we talk about every time money changed, so barter trade, you had to bring your chickens and your pigs in order to exchange them. Of course, that's very burdensome. Similarly, once you introduce gold coins, it's still very heavy to exchange value. However, in between, and I'm not making academic claims here, but the change of money, to switch from one currency to another, from the chicken to gold, there are some studies that suggest that every time we change money, that increases economic output. So, and you can probably tell where I'm going with this. So if we now think about moving from gold to paper money, and the economic output that's associated with that, of course there's many other factors that influence that. And we're now moving from paper money fiat currencies to something else. And that's something else we really don't know what that will be, right? I mean, we have some perspectives on this. Most folks in this room have heard about Bitcoin. Most folks probably have some Bitcoin. But obviously, that's not it. Yeah, so, that's of course sacrilege to anybody who's a crypto / Bitcoin maximalist. But the problems that we have in those new emerging currencies, we haven't quite addressed them. That's largely the mission of Samara Labs. So, rethink money. So, typically when we think of money, it's a bridge to move value. Yeah? And as we all know, especially of course painfully in the United States and Minnesota, bridges can collapse. They get old, they get congested, and they fall apart. So, how much does it cost to manufacture US paper money? So what I want to talk about now, these are just some sort of general perspectives on this space. And let's start with the cost of printing money. Now, we all know that in the circulation that exists right now with fiat money, with paper money, that the currency itself, the paper money itself, needs replacement just due to the fact that it exists in hard form still. Yeah? So still today, we're using hard cash, if you want. Yeah? And that is very costly. I only give you, of course, US data. The same applies to the UK, the EU. If we just look at the cost of printing $1 and $2 bills at 4.9 cents per note, $5, 10.9, 10 cost, and so forth and so forth. In other words, the more it's worth, the more it costs to produce. I would venture to argue that that cost is not the same if we move to a different form of money and value exchange. Now, can we quantify that at this point? No. Can we draw comparisons? No, we can't. But just conceptually, there has to be a better way. So, next thing, counterfeit. How has the government, and this is the central government function, yeah? So if people defraud the government by creating new money, if every time fake money gets into the market, the currency and the people's belief in the government becomes devalued. So and the government of course can't afford that. Yeah. So the government has a very strong perspective on counterfeit money, and it was so strong that in 1865 the Secret Service was actually created to, in part, address counterfeit issues. Yeah? So the government has an absolutely central role in this, and I think, no, it is, okay. And so, again, just in the way that I alluded to, the cost of printing money, counterfeiting, and the cost associated with counterfeiting are quite substantial, and we need to ask ourselves if that is sustainable. Now, some of you would say, yeah, absolutely, it is sustainable. We've dealt with this for the last 100 plus years, and well, we have something else. There are other ways to deal with monetary and value transfer. What exactly that will be, we don't know, but the technology is available now. Yeah? So, and of course, then there's also this issue of what else are people doing with money? So this is, yeah. So there are other uses for money, quite astounding at 90%. Breakdown by cities. We don't want to speculate what that might mean, but okay. So now we talk about Bitcoin. So I give you Bitcoin here as the Tin Lizzie, Model T Ford, the first industrialized production of a car. And so in some ways, Bitcoin can be compared to this. And Bitcoin, of course, has given us, in some ways, a way out of fiat in some ways, and a new perspective on money. Double spend problem, coordination of trustless transactions, disintermediation of the financial middleman. These are all buzzwords that we're trying to actually steer away from in the crypto community. Many of you will know in the crypto community, folks like to use buzzwords and then everything revolves around those buzzwords. And that's unfortunate. It's something that actually has to be addressed pretty quickly, in my opinion. So now, a lot of people, when they look at the essence of Bitcoin and what Bitcoin accomplishes, they actually talk about monetary policy and anti-fragility. Now, on the monetary policy side, they postulate that it has to be credible, legitimate, and sound. And monetary policy in Bitcoin terms may simply come out of the fact that it's a peer-to-peer network, which is based on proof of work and has a fixed supply. Now, I'll show you in the data later that deflationary models in the crypto space are actually on their way out. That's what the data suggests. You know? So the question now becomes, is that it? Is that really monetary policy? Can we assume that money, this form of money, can evolve with this level of policy? It's a big question mark. Yeah. So we at Samada, we believe that it's not enough. You can't simply say, well, it's a limited supply as a reaction to financial crisis, and it'll take care of itself. We have shouting matches with some of our advisors who are Bitcoin maximalists who believe that, who are firm on this. The market will take care of it. Some of you in the room will have opinions on this. We have some very serious doubts. Why do we have these doubts? How can anybody use this new form of money? How can Granny use this new form of money if it's not stable? If it will devalue within a week by $2,000? It cannot evolve, in our opinion. Now, some Bitcoin maximalists will tell you, no, the market will take care of it. Over time, the market will stabilize this. And we have Bitcoin maximalists who are arguing that Bitcoin currently is more stable than certain shares, and we have those conversations. To us, the evolution of Bitcoin, the evolution of money, can only happen if we have a stable currency. So let me give you a quick perspective on our research agenda in this context. So we have, of course, the technical research agenda with our core voting algorithm, the consensus, the underlying protocols, and decentralized autonomous organizations. And on the systemic side, it's all about infrastructure building. Now, this is infrastructure building for decentralized commerce. And that's, for many folks, that's hard to wrap their heads around. What is decentralized commerce? Well, decentralized commerce doesn't exist right now, technically. Trading currencies, that's not decentralized commerce. Yeah? So decentralized commerce, however, can exist. And we're talking about taking away, if you want, the human condition. Some of you will get angry now and say, well, what are you talking about? But this idea of trading with people in anonymous networks, trading with people whom you don't know, without intermediation, the reputation systems that we're using. I used to work for Goldman Sachs down the street on Fleet Street, talk about intermediation. Yeah? It's all about using reputation to further business outcomes. Yeah? So for us, infrastructure building is absolutely key on the agenda. And then, as I alluded to earlier, stability. You cannot evolve in this space unless you have true, stable currencies. Now, there's a whole debate in the crypto space as to the, four-letter word, stablecoin. What is a stablecoin? There's about 35 or so right now. Many of you will have followed what's happening with Tether. Tether refusing to get an audit for its currency. However, every time the market is volatile, you can directly trace the trading in Tether increases. Yeah, so the market depends on a stable currency. And that's not Bitcoin right now, because otherwise we wouldn't, for some people it still is Bitcoin, but otherwise we wouldn't see Tether values increasing and Tether trading increasing if and when market volatility increases. Yeah, so stability is absolutely mandatory. Now, does Tether do the job? No, it doesn't. We will see, those folks who are reading crypto press, it sounds like they're disintegrating right now. Why? Well, because they didn't pass the audit. They cannot show that every single Tether is backed by US dollar. They just can't. And the temptations are too strong right now in order for them to actually fulfill on their promises. So that's just one item. Yeah? So then the question becomes, how do you create a stable currency? So we currently have 8 PhDs, well, professors, tenured professors, working on this. Yeah? So it's all about figuring out a way to provide a stable currency. And I will talk about economic experimentation in a second. The only reason we can do this, so people will push back and say, oh, who do you think you are, that you think you can create a stable currency? It hasn't worked with the Fed. The Fed hasn't given us a truly stable currency, and they're really struggling with their monetary policy. Now, we can go back and forth on this. People have lots of opinions on this. But the reason why this space is so powerful, and the reason why it's so enlightening to hear a Minister of Commerce say the things he said, is that we have true economic experimentation in these new systems that are unprecedented. They haven't existed ever. We have over 100 years of monetary policy through the Federal Reserve, with all the messiness that the Federal Reserve has to deal with because of its real exposure to the real world. We don't have that in crypto. If you start a new currency, you have pure economic experimentation. The only reason why our researchers believe that we can create a stable currency is that we can create a model that allows this level of experimentation is because we don't have the external factors, the messiness of the real world that applies to the currency in its native state. Yeah? True economic experimentation. Okay, so lastly, liquidity. I know folks in Gibraltar have had several conversations with market leaders about this. There is no crypto evolution without liquidity. Any hedge fund manager in the room can tell you that the liquidity is appalling in this space. People sitting on currencies for days without being able to get out of the market. It still exists, anyways, I don't want to get into it, but so liquidity, we need an on-ramp to capital markets. We need a connector between capital markets and crypto. That doesn't exist right now, and the exchanges are not providing that. Okay, lastly, governance. Governance is absolutely essential for this space. And I'm talking now about protocol governance. So anybody who knows anything about crypto knows that right now everybody's trying to fix scaling. I'll talk about that in the next slide. Governance has to be, and this is why folks at EOS and various other crypto startups that are very promising, EOS $4.2 billion ICO, there are several others, they've created these systems without true dynamic evolutionary governance, protocol governance. Yeah, so we have leading Harvard folks who are still talking about socially optimal hard forking. The space cannot evolve if we talk about socially optimal hard fork. Hard forks are literally undermining the crypto evolution. Yeah, so for us, it has to be evolutionary governance. Evolutionary governance means it has to be at the protocol level that is possible for protocol upgrades. Yeah? And our core, and this is how the technical and the systemic really, they're feedbacks between each one of these. Yeah? So for each one of the systemic items, we have protocols and DAOs that support the implementation, the research of the systemic items. Yeah? So on governance, our core is literally, it's an evolutionary governance system. Yeah? And again, I want to say, this is not a bunch of engineers throwing stuff together with a copy and paste job, which works in many ways. This is not what this is. We're all academics. We're all tenured academics that are doing this. But we don't believe, like Cardano and several others, in going through painstaking peer review processes that can take 3 to 4 years in some cases. Yeah, that's a waste of time. As one can imagine, the underlying problems that are associated with peer review. Okay, so let me say a few more words about the research agenda, and I have to keep this relatively short. Consensus. Let's start out with consensus. What is the blockchain trilemma? Well, the trilemma is that nobody has figured out how to set up how to set up a blockchain that is secure, meaning attack resistance, fully attack resistant, is fully decentralized and scalable. So everybody knows Bitcoin first generation, second generation Ethereum gives us smart contracts in 2015. Third generation, everybody talks about scaling. Oh, we need Visa level speed in transaction volume. Transactions per second, 300,000 transactions per second or more. That's what's needed. So everybody is now rushing towards this because they know investors are looking for that. That's where the money is. Yeah? So we have Neo, Cardano, EOS, Credit, there's so many. Yeah? They're all trying to fix only one item, and that item is scaling. They want to be the fastest chain on the block, if you want. Yeah? And how do they do it? Well, they combine existing solutions with new tweaks. This is all about consensus algorithms. So proof of work, of course, Bitcoin, 7 seconds or so right now. Transactions per second is at about 7 or so. Ethereum 15 to 17 or so. And then there's really nothing. Yeah? So Ethereum has promised us Casper, they haven't delivered. So one reason why markets and investors, there are many reasons of course, are getting nervous is because all these platforms have given us promises that don't seem to materialize. How long have we been talking about Casper? For 2 years now? And we don't have it. Now, they may still deliver. People are hopeful. Yeah? We just finished our building on Ethereum, one demo for Samada, and it's unusable. It shuts down on you. You can do it locally, yes. You can experiment with it, put it on the Ethereum blockchain, but you can't use it live. Even on the testnet, it shuts down on you, literally, completely. So consensus algorithm. That has to get fixed. The trilemma of blockchain. Scaling, decentralization, and security. Now the trade-off typically is between security and scaling. Yeah, so we have delegated proof of stake, EOS, various other folks who are using, making very, I have to be careful how I say this. They're making compromises. They're making compromises on the security side and on the decentralization side just to attain scaling, because they know that's where the money is right now. If we do that, and we allow that, at some point the stakes will be high enough for somebody to corrupt the system. Once that's inevitable, because it's a good business deal to corrupt the system. Yeah? So with that come 51% fault tolerant and sock puppet attacks. And our entire research agenda is based on security. We spent almost 3 years as mathematicians and economists just dealing with security concerns, fixing sock puppet attacks in consensus algorithm designs. That was our main mission. That's where everything started 3 years ago. Yeah, we have not talked to anybody about this. We only, literally, 2 mathematicians, myself, and 2 others. That's all we did. Only focus on security. We are not going to market. We're not in the market for fundraising purposes, making millions in ICOs. No, that's not what this is about. It's about infrastructure building. Yeah? That's what this space needs. It doesn't need another ICO who makes a quick buck by copy and paste jobs. And I've been advising those guys. And I keep telling them, no, you cannot copy and paste this. These are unsustainable solutions. They don't get us anywhere. Yeah? Okay, let me move on. Protocols. Proof of reputation, block production, block propagation. That's Samada's perspective on consensus design. And again, currency stability, absolutely mandatory. Many of you will have read the Robert Sams paper, 2014, Single Shares, as a first academic attempt to create a stable coin. Then the basis paper has improved on the design provided by Robert Sams. They raised 133 million from institutional investors, including some big names, just because they looked like they are the most promising stability coin available. Because many institutional investors realize that Tether is not it. Yeah? And I don't have time to go into all the ins and outs and how to create a true stable currency, but it's an absolute priority. Yeah? So governance, currency stability, and consensus. If we don't provide solutions in this space, new money cannot evolve. We can't get to the economic outputs of new money through crypto. It won't exist. You will all be failed attempts. Many of you know that the market is literally cleaning itself of all those horrible products that have been out there, that have overcompromised in so many ends for, some might say, selfish reasons.